panel discussion on the progress of technology-enhanced active learning in Hong Kong tertiary STEM education is about to begin. But in the spirit of the goals of the project, Fernando would like to actually introduce YoTeach to all of you. We will show you how we can actually use this as a back channel very simply.
Why don't, since it's a panel discussion and it's an active learning symposium, if you want to ask any questions or comment during our panel discussion, you're welcome to. So you just go to YoTeach, so you can do it in many ways. You're probably on your mobile phone, so you can go as follows. Post. You can scan the following QR code or go to palms.polyu.edu.hk/yo, and then just click search room. Okay, so I will make up, it's very easy to make a room. So let me just quickly, I haven't made the room yet, so let me just quickly make the room. So I just make a room called, what's it called? Mini, I don't remember what I called it. Just mini, okay, or mini. You can describe it as a mini symposium. And then you can implement features to new people if you want. So just make room. And then enter a nickname. I'll just call myself Red. Click terms, agree, continue. So during our panel, you can say hello. You can even write if you want. And send. That was a plagiarism given. And whatever you want. Okay? So again, how do you get there? So this is what your mobile phone looks like. Go to YoTeach. And then, or you can scan the following QR code. Click search room, just type mini. Type mini in the search for the room. And then enter your nickname, click avoid, agree, click continue, and you're in the room. Okay? So let's get on with that.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Ting, who's actually also our moderator for the panel discussion. So let us now invite our scholarly members. The Professor Eric Tsui, please. Is from the Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering at the University. I'd also like to invite Professor Christopher Keys from the Department of Music and the Director of the Arts Resources Center at the Hong Kong Baptist University. Dr. Milton Falk, Director of the Laboratory of the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering and the Assistant Dean of the the Dean of the Engineering at the University of Hong Kong, Dr. Sial Mak, Department of Applied Physics and Dean of the Remote Labs here at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And finally, last but not least, Professor Ern King, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and the Principal Investigator for the KEEP platform from the Chinese University of Hong Kong.
So we can use this mic. Do you want to take a picture? I'll just, in the background, I'll just show you. So as you can see, yeah, I think some people have already played around with it. Yeah, great. You can take pictures. You can annotate on pictures if you want. So it's very conducive to, yeah. So let me just go back. Okay, so thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the panel. I'm very fortunate that you accepted our invitation. So I wanted to start off with CL Mac, who's the leader of the Remote Labs project, an excellent project that's won the Reimagine Awards Gold Award. I wanted to ask you from a global perspective, less than 4 out of 10 students who enroll in university to major in a STEM subject, with many contending unsatisfactory instruction and learning environment as the principal reason behind their decision to leave these subjects. What do you see as the single most important active learning pedagogy that can aid STEM education in the future to come? Dr. Matt?
Okay, thank you. Okay. I think recently, most of you will know that studying science or engineering in university, the students are not that interested in studying that. I think in order to really try to make them to do this, I think one of the things we have to do it is to increase their interest. I think the most, if you talk about a single word, probably there are quite a number of reasons. Probably talking about the career future, the money that they can make. Probably science, the student always think that it's not that good in their career. So that's why they are not, or they lost their interest. So one way to do this is try to increase their interest in studying the STEM. Now, in order to increase the interest of students, talking about how to do this, I think it's slightly different with different subjects. Different approach from, say, physics, chemistry, or biology, or even engineering. Now, talking about pure science, because I'm a faculty member from pure science, so in order to increase, one way to do this, to increase the interest, I think is starting from very low form, not just in the university. They have to start to increase their interest in their, say, secondary school or even in primary school. Because you can't increase their interest suddenly when they start to come to the university and then ask, now you should pay more attention to your science subject. That's not the way we can do it now. We should do it right at the bottom, that means from the lower floor. So in order to do that, our team actually started a project a few years ago with the EDB, the Education Bureau, to start quite a number of projects on increasing the interest of high school to do or to increase the interest. Now, to increase the interest, of course, you have, again, a lot of different methods or ways. Now, as a science teacher, we know that in order to increase, not just increase their interest in learning the physics or the science, but also doing the science. So because science is a subject not just looking at the books, textbook, and then you can learn it. You have to do experiment. That means what we call a hand-on experiment, to make them feel that they can at least get rid of something, get hold of something from their own hands. So this is why we try to increase, or why we start the project, what we call the remote lab. Now, based on the remote lab, we can allow the student to do their own experiment anytime, anywhere, in their own pace. Okay, that's the most important. And the reason why we need to do this, because in the past, the student, in particular for the student in the university, they are more or less at the same level when they enter. But unfortunately, because of the new education system now, we find that the students actually have a very diversity background. That means some students are very good, some students are very bad. Now, if you do the traditional way to do the lab, that means ask them to come to the lab with a particular section for 3 hours, say, and then all the students do the same lab together at the same pace most likely some good student can perform the lab within, say, 1 hour, finish. But some students probably are not talking about they are poor, but they are slow learners, learn a little bit slower, then they may need more time, say 4 or 5 hours to finish the lab. But unfortunately, because the traditional lab training section only allow them to do it within 3 hours, then probably they can't learn much. So by doing what we call the remote lab, we try to allow the student to learn at their own pace so that they can do it through the online, together, on their own, and they can, say, spend more than, say, as many time as they can to finish the lab. So this is the motivation or the way we want to do the remote lab. Probably I don't want to talk too much because of time, so maybe we can have some time for discussion.
Thanks.
So the only answer to the question will be interest. Try to motivate the students.
Do you find so far that the secondary school students are more interested now after?
It seems quite good. The positive feedback, most of them, our past experience find that most of the students like to do the experiment in the midnight because it's easy for them to have I don't know, probably free time or the time that they willing to learn. So they spend most of the midnight to do the experiment. So this is one probably I think is a new generation topic. Thank you. Yeah.
What was it? Sorry. Just one more question. What's the most popular remote lab to your secondary students?
Probably the radiation.
Radiation one, okay.
Yeah, because the second reason why we start that idea because of the safety reason. Because in doing some experiment, the student really afraid that the experiment is not safe enough. Probably I don't want to spend too much time on doing the lab. Probably my colleagues will or my classmate will do the experiment. I will just look at it at a far distance and probably I can learn it anyway from watching it. Then probably they won't really do it hand-on because of the safety reason. But with this remote experiment, they can do it safely for as long as they can. So probably it's quite popular for the radiation.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh.
Maybe I just ask a brief comment. I'm not an expert, but that sounds like perhaps put a gamification approach to it may add more value because you can constrain in terms of time, in terms of environment about what will happen, and that gives the students and the learners a bit of challenge about how to race for time to solve that problem in order to avoid crisis or whatever.
That's very nice. I like that. Gamification in remote labs. so
Gaming your lab.
yeah. So that segues nicely to the following question because. Sorry.
Just a brief comment because being from music, I'm one of the 6 out of the 10 who switched.
Oh, wonderful.
When I went as an undergraduate, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do physics or music. And one of the big deciding factors was my first class, calculus class.
Okay.
And the professor was going through all these equations that we had to memorize and work for the next time. And I remember raising my hand and asking, could you explain a little bit about how this equation works? Why is that, for instance, why is that an x squared and not an x cubed? And why is that? Because I hate having to memorize things. I like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I did this twice through the semester. The answer was the same. We don't have time for that. We have so much material to go through.
Yeah.
We can't actually explain any of the concepts behind this. So just memorize it and use it. Then use that language. But taking a look at the curriculum and thinking about how much we need to cover
Yes.
and how deep that actually goes is I think, another important step.
Oh, for sure. Christopher, I totally agree. Teachers find that, especially in when I do active learning in class, I do cover less material, but in fact the students learn that material more better than they actually learn like more. So I totally agree with you there. They should just, you know, actually cut a bit more. Well, thanks for your segues nicely to the following. So Dr. CUHK has successfully sustained his remote labs project. Dr. Falk, may I ask you, how do you, in general, sustain educational mobile platforms like iClass yourself, in general, developed by a university? How do you continue to improve and grow the number of users that you've established already for iClass or for anything that we developed in this project? What do you recommend? Any thoughts on that?
Thanks for the questions, and let me share with you how we developed this journey of the iClass development. So we can trace back to year 2011 when we prepared for the 4-year curriculum, when we expected the class size would be larger, much larger than before. And so we would like to have more interactions with the class. I agree a lot with but we just mentioned that the face-to-face interactions in class is equally or even much more important. Although we are now pushing or promoting e-learning and MOOC and so on, and so it would be some supplementary work and also some other learning activities experience for students to learn online and after class, something like that. At the same time, we should put the same and equally importance on the face-to-face teaching and make it more interesting. And I am aware that at that time, the iPhone and other smartphones is booming, and more students try to pay attention on their mobile phone. Okay, they just look at they don't look at you, right? And so the mobile phone becomes a level in the class. So I'm thinking how to turn it into an angel, okay, that can help us to interact with the students. That's why we come up with the idea of turning these toys into learning tools that encourage students to interact with us. At the very beginning, we just interact something very simple like the multiple choice question or the keywords, just like what you have demonstrated in Taboo. But later on, we find that for teaching STEM education, just keywords and just simple options is not good enough. Okay, we also allow students to draw their innovations, or in the laboratory, they may also teachers could post a graph paper or the laboratory apparatus and on the mobile phone or tablet, so that they can use the fingers to rearrange the apparatus or draw the curve on the graph. And this is the idea of cooperative learning and also self-directed learning. We don't feed knowledge to the students. We ask them to explore by themselves, and teachers become the facilitator, okay, instead of just giving one way ideas and knowledge to the students. And so that we make use of the tools to collect ideas from the class. And then if you have time or during the lunch hour, you can see our group that how we do the interaction with the students. So once we collect the ideas, because the students have already passed through their brain, okay, they have think of this answer, and that's why they can answer put the answer, type the answer on the mobile phone and share it on the screen. Then I can pick, okay, the student, for example, stick at the back at the hill, okay, then I can chime up and know his name and then ask him to share. Okay. So this is very effective much better than the traditional way.
Sure.
And then I can have more interaction with directly to the particular students. So this is in answer to your question is how to sustain this project is that we have to continuously improve the features. So not only text and also MC options, but also many other new and multimedia features. Like we also later on allow students to record their laboratory and then share in the class, and also do the peer review, so that they can see the submissions from one another and so on. So and later on become a learning management platform. And then it makes it more successful. And then later on, some schools, including overseas university, like in Singapore or even Harvard, they are trying to use this for the interactive class as well.
Okay. Yeah, Eric.
Can I?
Professor Yuan, please, panel discussion.
That also triggers me, give us an opportunity to consider evolving our teaching and assessment approach from behavioral to constructivist approach. So rather than just asking or expecting students to, I teach, you remember, you recall, we can actually ask them to compose scenarios or constructs that illustrate how a particular concept or principle can be applied. So in the past, I have asked students to create a scenario to illustrate how a particular principle should be applied. Right? Like what I've said earlier, even for the scenario planning, the open pedagogy project, I asked students to compile not only a story narrative about the scenarios, but also record a maximum 5 minutes video about the scenarios as well. And I have to say that the majority of students welcome that particular approach. I've also tried, same marks or same way of assessment for reflective journal. You can either write me a reflective journal or record your video. And gradually, if you give them patience, you give them inject more confidence. Slowly, more and more students are taking up the video recording approach, and less students are doing the traditional approach. I think we should also encourage them.
For sure, I totally agree. Any other comments, gentlemen? There was actually a very nice comment on your teach by. We need to drive students to learn more so that we can teach less. And what you just said, Wilton and Eric. So by using these mobile devices, you give students more control of their learning. That's how you
Agree. Yeah.
So JY, thank you very much.
We'll submit this comments. Very good.
Yeah.
In fact, I can share with you that after I'm using this type of interactive teaching, I can save my time.
Yes.
So,
Same here.
preparations. In the past, we may need to prepare, say, at least 2 or 3 hours for 1 hour lectures, and prepare the PowerPoint and also the lecture notes. But then, because I shift this workload back to the students, and they can learn, and also it can save my work, and then it can also turn the class into a more interactive and interesting way. So my duration score, like Dr. Ping, okay, also increase. Okay, increased by about 10%. Okay, this is
And no complaint.
no complaint. Yeah, and also the very positive comment written in the student duration. So I encourage all colleagues that you can try this.
So thank you very much. So leads nicely to the next question for the panel. Maybe Christopher, that's easy. Does new active learning methods drive technology, or vice versa, or both? Which direction is more true? Nice.
First of all, I just, beforehand, I wanted to apologize for getting stuck in traffic this morning.
Oh.
So I wasn't able to hear all Professor Choi's lecture, which I'll be referring to. We make educational apps on our grant, and most of the people that we've made apps for have come back with the exact same comment. The material gets covered beforehand, and they have extra time in class, right? But to directly answer the question, I don't think, unfortunately, that active learning at this point really drives technology. I don't think somebody was planning a MOOC. Wouldn't a MOOC be fantastic? All we need is some kind of video conferencing software. It's going to happen the other way around.
So technology drives more of
Technology enabled.
Yeah.
Same thing if I want to have my students do some type of gamification while they're moving towards class. All I need is something kind of like a smartphone. Again, I think it's the other way around. You see technologies and you think, hey, how could we harness that? In terms of drive, though, I would say it's really ideas. It's creative ideas that are actually driving it.
Right. So for example, like Professor Tsui's open curriculum.
Exactly.
Will that build new, Professor, does that encourage you to build more, I don't know, some new technology to help you, realize your new...
to the students' learning outcome and learning experience should be worthwhile to explore.
So which came first? The technology gave you the idea of open curriculum? You know, pedagogy, or you thought open curriculum
Pedagogy
first?
came first. Comes first.
Okay, so that's the, but Christopher thinks otherwise. Technology, actually,
I just think last Friday I was had a meeting with Zurich University of the Arts, Hong Kong UPA, and we're talking about some kind of joint collaborations, joint degree programs. And one question that they had actually on a form for us to fill out was, if you could start from scratch a university, what would you do? And my commute takes me through IFC. I haven't seen a lot of the malls, but what I see there are these huge LCD displays for commercials. And it leads me to think, what if we started from scratch? What if every classroom, every session, any seminar room, what if student common eras all had floor-to-ceiling, ultra-high def displays and connections with other universities? What if a student is studying German and is looking at this 37-letter word for vacuum cleaner? What if in the student comments, in the student comment area, you could actually just kind of dial in Berlin, some other student comments, and say, what does this mean? But again, to me, it's like looking at the technology, coming up with some kind of idea, and then driving for it. I see this a lot in the creative field. I deal with multi-channel audio, and it was actually George Lucas's had this idea for the beginning of Star Wars, that the whole thing would be about this little spacecraft shooting back and forth between the huge monolithic evil empire. And like most producers, he wanted to get the whole thought of the movie and the series in the first couple of minutes. And so he really wanted a contrast between the sound of this little spaceship here on the front speakers and this huge thing from the rear speakers. And he pushed and pushed Dolby to make this happen.
so this is a case where pedagogy drives the technology,
We're creativity,
right?
drives technology. And then technology enables the teaching or other ideas from it.
Okay. Thoughts? So in your case, you had a pedagogical problem, and then you made iClass to solve it. And same with you, right, Dr. Mack? There's not enough room for experiments and time for your students. Then you invented remote labs. So it's the other way pedagogy drives technology. I still really haven't seen a case where, okay, technology drives. What's some example?
Of mega technologies.
Mega.
In terms of using existing technologies and writing a program for a smartphone, of course we do that all the time. That's what my last 2 grants from UC have been. Is taking existing technologies, taking existing software, combining them together to make some new form of education. And we actually say specifically to address specific pedagogical problems. Not, wouldn't it be cool to do this, wouldn't it be cool to do that? But what is the pedagogical problem? But in terms of technology, we're simply using existing technology so far.
And the PoE, I think that I think that that's technology driven too.
Oh yes, for sure, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Any other comments?
And I can also share with you that how technology and technologies to interact together. Because I'm from engineering, so my background is more technology, and so when I developed this e-learning tools, at the very beginning I focused on how to improve the technology performance, the speed, capacity, and so on. But later on I found out that this is not the most significant factor that makes the project successful. And more importantly is the technology, in fact, how to improve the interaction between teacher and students. For example, some very minor stuff such as how to display the fonts and then using the tactile, so that's good. highlight the central idea and then to assist the teachers to capture the central ideas in the class. So all this, and also the statistic and user data to analyze the student results so that we can find out the learning diversity and also the common mistake and so on. So these are methodology related. So technology is just a tool that help teachers to make use of the tools to teach better. Right? So therefore, effect technology, tech, TECH. This is spelling of tech. Something is missing, and A is missing. If TEACH, it becomes teacher, right?
Oh.
So okay, so that's why if you just have technology is not good enough to be an A grade teacher or A grade student. So we need another A to turn technology into a good technology.
Oh, that's very nice. I just want to bring attention to the following question from really nice in this discussion. Any panelists can share some experience from Chris Lowe using technology to enable group discussion or group-based learning scenario. So can you recommend any on this panel?
Units discussion for. They're all in various software. OpenEdX,
OpenEdX,
Coursera, even Moodle.
Say again?
Classroom.
In a classroom.
Within the classroom.
Within a classroom.
Okay.
Most somewhere
Yeah.
post-conference,
I can contribute.
Please.
I show you the video. Okay, it's online video. Very short video, maybe 1 minute, to show you how I teach in the class for the discussion. Okay, maybe I can show it now.
Yep, there's a
Yeah,
sure, okay.
just show it online.
Just open up another.
Yes. Okay, so it's e-learning. Okay, so we have some media here, and then they're using smartphone to facilitate the various discussions. Okay. What's your name?
Chris Lowe.
Huh?
Chris Lowe.
Chris. Oh, okay. Chris, thank you for this question. Okay. And we don't know each one another, right? Before. Okay.
Turn the volume.
And then
In an ordinary lecture, especially when the class size is large, it is difficult to moderate a debate or discussion in the class. Only a few students
we can
get
watch
involved in the
this
discussion,
video.
otherwise the class may become very noisy. With the aid of smartphones and tablet PCs, students can share their views and opinions with their devices in a class discussion or debate. All students can get involved in a well-organized manner. Let's see how the teacher uses sticky notes to conduct a discussion in class.
Today we're going to talk about e-learning. Now let's brainstorm idea about e-learning. I'm going to distribute yellow paper to each of you. And please write down your idea, your impressions about e-learning. What is e-learning? Okay. So please have to distribute this paper to them. Are you still using this in your class? Of course, know that many of you will no longer use this. It's just and to extract.
The teacher then needs to collect the responses and stick them on the board for sharing.
For us, easy classes, who write this? Come on, give me some response.
Let's do a test demonstration and see how Dr. Paul uses iClass to facilitate a discussion in a more innovative way.
So this time, write your ideas and impressions about e-learning and on your mobile device. Please take out your mobile phone or tablet PC and write your ideas, or type your ideas on the device and then submit it to the screen. The student can type on the apps. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you very much. We have a lot of ideas. And the tech cow is something that I've mentioned that help teachers to do better technology.
The teacher can identify which students had answered what questions through the list view function. In this way, the teacher can encourage shy students to share their ideas in the class.
Because this is not a test,
easy in the
so they're
past.
more willing to share than just asking
Apart
them.
from listing the ideas for discussion, iClass can
This is
also be
your
used
answer
for
to the
debate
question.
or multi-dimensional
The
discussion. Let's see how Dr. Falk conducts a class debate with iClass.
Today we are going to discuss e-learning, and we are going to discuss the pros and cons of e-learning. So we will divide the class into two groups. On my right-hand side, let's talk about the pros of e-learning. In fact, IT tools can help by, for example,
Different ideas shared from
and the
two
screen
groups
can be
of
cut.
students can be shown
Even
on two
walls,
sides of
this
the
is
screen. Teachers can make use of the
And
tag
have good
cloud
discussion.
function to highlight the central idea, or use the statistics function to show the pie chart distribution of the ideas, or even use the list view function to show who answered what in the debate. Besides debates, which are two-dimensional discussions, four-dimensional discussions, such as SWOT analyses or PESTEL analyses, can be conducted through iClass.
to talk about sport.
iClass can collect ideas from different groups with their tablet PCs or smartphones and classify the answers in an organized and interactive way in real time. From now on, sticky notes can be disposed of.
Thanks. Okay.
So, answer question?
So let me just okay. So thank you. Let's bring the next question. So the big buzzword right now in education is big data. May I ask Professor Rogan King, who's a project leader for the TEAL platform, how do educational e-platforms improve teaching learning with big data on our traits? So, can I help you there? And then I'll just yeah.
Oh, good. I'd like to thank Eric first for inviting me to this mini symposium. My background is in machine learning, big data, AI. So this is a very appropriate topics that I'll be talking about today. But I thought I'd start with the problem of our today's education. I'll illustrate this with the comic strip right here. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Today, we're still teaching like a cookie cutter method. Okay, one to many, and the way that we treat each individual is more or less, very similar. And I think that what AI and big data could bring is really diversity and personalized education. So that's one of the key things I like to actually share. Eric also has talked about this, is that this is in 1 minute, this is what we get. Email, social media, and all that. I don't need to share too much, but I want to say this, is that as a data scientist, as a computer science, we actually begin to collect data. And this is where big data comes in. Data where remote sensing. This is not only about your grades, but about your behavior, about the type of things that you're interested, preferences, and many, many other things. So from data, we hope that we can actually extract information. From information, we hope that we can extract knowledge. And knowledge from that, we hope we have wisdom in terms of how we teach the next generation. And lastly, I really truly hope that we can make wise decisions on how to do pedagogy, policy, technology, and so on and so forth for the future. There are challenges and opportunities in big data and AI in education. I'd like to just share with you some of this. I think foremost thing is that computational thinking is really in the front of STEM education. And just like somebody mentioned that earlier, it's missing an A. It's not STEM, it's actually STEAM. Yeah. We need to put the arts and computational thinking into the arts. Computational thinking is not only for computer scientists, but is a way of approach of problem solving, an analytic skill or training of analytic skills for everyone, even for the arts and for the humanities. So I don't want to go into detail, but anyway, computational thinking should be the in the forefront of the issue in terms of teaching our next generation. AI in education is becoming bigger and bigger. I'd like to just share with you some of the things that we could do in terms of using AI in assessment, for example, where you use biometrics to validate who you are when you're taking a test so that we know the right person is taking the test. We can use behavior to actually help you. If you're a lack of sleep, maybe we have an alarm that will remind you to go to sleep and get some rest. We can also use computer vision right here from the classroom or inside the classroom to track whether the student are paying attention, whether the teacher is paying attention to the student as well. And lastly, there are many general AI. For example, we have recommender system where we actually use that to get a better recommendation for courses or the interest topics that the student would like to learn. We also have, I just read a recent report. I think a quarter of the homework assignments inside China is being graded by AI bots. Okay, so that's a very interesting thing. And there's some local development in high school where they use AI tutors, intelligent tutors, to teach English, for example. So these are some of the things that we actually could do. Mobile learning, I don't have to say, I think many people already said it, using your phone for interaction. I'd like to actually share that augmented, virtual, and mixed reality will be also coming up, right? It's on the horizon. In fact, we need that because e-learning, by definition, does not immerse you into the real life or real world experience. So by using AR, VR, or mixed reality, we're able to actually do interaction, immersion much, much better in our education. Gamification, don't want to talk about it because you already did. I think that the next thing is really the curated education content, and that's where personalization comes from. Everybody has a different background, everybody has different knowledge. Why should the teaching be exactly the same? If you're a faster learner, you move faster. If you have difficulty in one session, get stuck, it's okay, take your time. But at the end, we hope that everybody will arrive at the same place, as skill-based or performance-based or whatever you want. So micro-learning is on the way. AI could also actually help in recommending topics in this micro-learning environment. So it's becoming more and more effective. As I shared before, personalized learning is how, what, when, where, and why. And personalized learning through the use of big data and AI will be very, very big in the future. Okay, I want to say about P2P learning, that's pedagogy. And I'd like to just share one thing about active learning. I teach a data structure course. And one of the things that we try to do is that, when we teach them about data structure, they actually could program and actually interact with an interpreter so they get immediate result. And this kind of real-time active learning will be more and more common in the future. And I think that this is a way actually to go because that, from passive learning, we can only retain perhaps up to 30%. But using active learning, we could obtain up to 90%. Education analytics is big data. It's about education analytics. Education analytics is in the broader term. It's for administrators, as well as for teachers, as well as for students. Okay, so I kind of grouped all this thing in terms of education analytics. For administrator, you want to know which course is actually popular. People are actually interacting inside the course. How many students are involved? For the teacher, you want to also know that. And for the student, I want to know where I am in comparison to other students in the class. And that will help for me to get organized and plan and so on and so forth. So learning analytics is more detailed version of the education analytics, specifically for learning. Okay, so I just want to briefly share this because I work in this project called KEEP. KEEP stands for Knowledge Education Exchange Platform. It is really a project that is actually it incorporates all 8 institutions in Hong Kong. And we also have partners such as Coursera, 学堂, Canvas, edX, and Future Learn, where we actually collect their meta information. And so when you search for one course, it will show up, one topic, it will show up all courses on various MOOC platforms. And it will actually, so it will facilitate and it will make your search much more efficient. Okay, so I don't want to belabor the point, but we are also doing something about analytics, and we hope that in the future we'll have more time and more to show you about what we do in terms of that data analytics. So these are some of the things that we do. Okay, so final remark. Digitization of education of things. You heard about Internet of Things. It's becoming the education of things. Is transforming the landscape of learning for both educator and learner. Big data and AI is leading the way to improve education. As you just saw, it could give us a lot more personalized learning, and we could do education at scale. We could do curated education to be more specific to the student, and we have active learning that can be built in, and you can interact with a bot, an intelligent tutor. And education, learning analytics, and gamification, and so on and so forth will help us in achieving our goal in terms of reaching our learners better. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thanks, Professor King. Any questions or comments on Professor King's discussion?
I think I stand away.
Yes. So, Tsui, I hope you don't mind. So, I'd like to thank all the members of the panel here for participating and sharing your views. They're very, very interesting, inspiring. So, since we're already over time, maybe we could hold the questions until after and during lunch. So let me hand it over to our MC.
So Professor, thank you everybody, and Dr. Ting will actually now present souvenirs to our panelists as a token of thanks. So may we now invite Professor King first?
Thanks very much. First, maybe can I ask you to stand over there? We're going to take a group picture later.
Now maybe invite Professor Peace.
Okay, you won't see it again.
Professor Tsui, please. Dr. Mott, please. Dr. Max, please.
Group picture and then
To the center for a group photo.
Oh, no, I'll stand on this. No. Visitors, no. Professor King. Yeah.